So, I got my nice warm tea here. I am drinking, I think it's cinnamon apple. Might be like one of the celestial teas or something like that. But anyways, I have been wanting to do just like a long review type thing of all the original Goosebumps. Eventually I'll move on to the other series, but I just kind of wanted to make more Goosebumps related videos. And I've been wanting to do, like I said, just kind of a short review type opinion thing of each book. So on YouTube, this will probably all be put together, maybe in segments of like 5 or 10, I'm not sure. We'll see how many I get done tonight. But anyways, we're going to try and go in order here. And we'll start out with the very first Goosebumps book, which is Welcome to Dead House. I'm trying to get it where you guys can see the cover there and everything. So yeah, Welcome to Dead House is the first Goosebumps book. And honestly, it is kind of different from the others. And what I mean is, this book, I mean, for something that's supposed to be middle grade, it's kind of dark. And despite the fact that it's, I guess, zombies or zombie adjacent kind of things, they're like never straight out called zombies, I don't think, in either the book or the TV episode. I don't remember that word ever being used. But they're the living dead, basically, in so many ways. Or they're not even really that so much as kind of like infected people. I really don't know. They're not straight up zombies in like the traditional sense. But anyways, this is the first Goosebumps book, Welcome to Dead House. This is about two kids. I believe their names are Amanda and Josh, if I remember. And they moved to a place called Dark Falls with their family. I cannot for the life of me remember how they got this house, if it was some kind of inheritance or I believe they were tricked somehow, which is kind of obvious. But their dad is writing a book about something. So they end up moving to Dark Falls, where things are kind of strange. It's dark Falls. And, you know, the kids, they only stay out to a certain time when the sun is out and there's not a lot of, like, shade. They seem to kind of want to go home, not hang out, avoiding the sunlight, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So they're strange in that way, and there's just other strange things that the kids are picking up on. And of course, you know, the parents just think that, you know, it's because they moved and, you know, they got to get used to a new town and, you know, kind of a creepy old house. And of course, like in most of these books, they're kind of brushed off in a way, especially when Amanda starts having nightmares. And obviously they find out that something happened that they were not told about, and that the people are not exactly, you know, what they seem to be. And that's about as much as I really can say without giving everything away. Yeah, these kind of things by now have been done over and over again. Creepy town, weird kids, spooky house, nightmares, you know. By now, we've had those kind of things repeated, and that's something that happens in Goosebumps. But still, I really enjoyed this book. It is very dark and atmospheric and just eerie, creepy, you know. And somebody pointed out that most of the other Goosebumps books have some kind of humor in there, like some kind of lighthearted moment, bits. But this one really doesn't. And there are some other Goosebumps books that are kind of like this, but I would say this one really is kind of more on the really eerie side. and I think that's because this is the first one, and this was, you know, kind of, in a way, a kind of test run, I guess. I mean, I would imagine that's how it is, you know, writing a first book for a series. It's, you know, your first book, you don't know how things are gonna go. You're still kind of finding your feel, your voice for this type of series. And so it kind of makes sense that this one's going to be a little different than the other ones. There are ones, like I said, that are scary in that sense. I mean, scary for a kid's book kind of thing. I really want to say that the feeling, the atmosphere for this book kind of gives more vampire vibes than zombie vibes. But again, like I said, this is the first book, so, you know, it's not going to be perfect. But I thought it was really well done for a first book. So anyways, let me know what you think about Welcome to Dead House. I think it's a very good first installment for the series. Okay, so on to book 2, which is Stay Out of the Basement, and that's not the original cover, but it's the one that I got from Goodreads. That one's not too bad. I really love the original covers, but that one actually does look pretty cool, I gotta say. So, Stay Out of the Basement is about 2 kids named Margaret and Casey. They live with their mother and father. This isn't one where they go off to like a new town or whatever. It's just them. I think there might be some other characters that appear like in the book or the show or something like that, but mainly it's the 4 people, the mom, the dad, the 2 kids. Mainly the 2 kids and the dad, because I think the mom goes off to, I don't know, take care of a sick relative or something like that. I can't honestly remember. But anyways, their father works with plants. I want to say maybe he's a botanist or something along those lines. He's some type of scientist that works, I think, primarily with plants. I'm not sure exactly if that's what he was, or if he's just using plants in some kind of experiment. It's been a little while since I've read it, but basically, the guy's big into plants. It's right now, he's got a big project going on, and it gets to the point where their father starts acting very strange. And not just acting strange, but he's physically strange. Like, he gets cut, and they see green stuff instead of blood coming out of where he's cut. And he's very secretive about what he's doing down in the basement. He's very adamant that they don't go anywhere near it, not even by the window outside. And of course, Margaret and Casey want to know what's going on and what happened with their father. This one, while not as creepy as Welcome to Dead House, this was more fun, still kind of scary in the way that obviously these 2 kids are alone with kind of like a being, an entity that they know is not their parent, or something has affected their parent, that they are not acting in the way that the parent should, and they have to deal with it themselves. So in that way, that's kind of scary. It still has a creepiness of things aren't right, things need to be resolved, and they kind of have to do it on their own kind of thing. It's kind of one of those, we have to defeat this thing kind of books. And it's not my absolute favorite, but like I said, it's fun, it's creepy. I think it's a good second book. I really like the ending too, because I feel it's kind of an ending that's open for interpretation. It could either be a closed ending or an open ending, depending on what you think is going on. Okay, so book 3, or what I believe is book 3, is the first Monster Blood book. I know people have varying opinions on these, and honestly, they are kind of the same after a while, but then again, I know this might be blasphemous to say in Goosebumps, but so are the Slappy books. Really, I feel like a lot of spooky-ish horror things are kind of the same after a while. And we watch them because they're entertaining. They're fun, they're spooky, you know, all that good stuff. When I went back to reading Goosebumps again, I was reading the ones that I hadn't read, and then I was going back and rereading ones that I read years ago and didn't remember a whole lot about. I had pretty much forgotten, once I got to reading this, I had forgotten how different, in a lot of ways, that the episode is different from the book, and I really don't understand why they had to do that, because Goosebumps isn't that big to begin with, and it's not like a full-length movie. These were TV episodes. So, like, the basic frame, premise, whatever, in a way is the same, but things like in the middle, little details are changed for whatever reason, I don't know. So anyways, this is about a boy named Evan, and his parents have to go on some kind of trip. I don't remember for what reason. I think it's either to see some relative or business or something like that. But anyways, they leave him with his aunt, and I believe his aunt is deaf. And she's an elderly woman. I think she might have been kind of like the same type of character in the show. But anyways, he goes there, and he meets a girl named, I think it's Andy, because I think her name's Andrea or something like that. But anyways, yeah, he goes to live with his aunt for like a few weeks or whatever, meets a friend named Andy, and they go to like this store. I think it's like a toy store, magic shop, one of those kind of things. And they end up finding a can of Monster Blood, which is kind of like this goop, right? I think it's supposed to be, God, what the heck was that stuff called? Was it yak? And I have a feeling it's supposed to be like similar to like toy slime, like the Nickelodeon kind of stuff, yak, silly putty, that kind of thing. I'm guessing that's what this stuff is supposed to be like inspired by. But anyways, yeah. So they find this fun green goopy stuff, and it can like bounce real high, and then they discover that it keeps growing. Like, I think if you mess with it and you don't put the lid on properly, or even if you do, somehow it keeps growing. It grows and it grows. And obviously, problems come about that, because they do not have a way to control this monster blood. Now, in the TV episode, it is discovered that the monster blood came from kind of like a witchcraft type ritual. So yeah, so instead of like finding it at a toy store, I believe in the episode, Evan finds it in one of his aunt's rooms, and it's like in a jar, and him and Andy play with it, and all the other stuff like it growing happens. But it's just like the book and the show have two different ways of how they end up finding monster blood. And I don't think in the book it's ever explained where monster blood comes from, at least not in the first one. But like in the show, it's kind of made up where his aunt had this roommate that was kind of like, yeah, into like witchcraft and stuff, and she basically, I think, summoned or created monster blood or something like that. And yeah, I'm not really sure why all that was necessary. I know they did like a continuation episode based off that, but none of that stuff except for a few characters is really in the book. So this one was pretty much kind of more of a lighter Goosebumps one. It's more colorful, fun, yeah, that kind of thing. It's quite different from the first two, especially the first one. And I enjoyed this one. There's not a whole lot going on, and like I said, they are kind of similar, but it's a fun concept. I enjoyed it. So, let me know what you think, or what you thought about Monster Blood. Okay, we are back to the kind of really dark Goosebumps. And I love this cover. It is so creepy. And something about just like skeletons just like kind of creep me out. I don't know, they look creepy and scary. But anyways, this one is about a group of friends. It's primarily based around this one kid. And I cannot remember all their names right now. But anyways, they kind of go into this abandoned warehouse following like this, I don't know if he's supposed to be a homeless guy, I can't remember, or just some guy that everyone thinks is strange. But anyways, they kind of end up in this like abandoned warehouse kind of thing. I think it's abandoned. But anyways, and they find this strange looking camera, and it's basically like a strange Polaroid kind of camera, you know, an instant picture kind of thing. However, unlike a normal camera, this one kind of, well, it doesn't kind of, it basically predicts the future, but the bad future, right? So like they test it out, he takes a picture of one of his friends on the stairs, and the picture comes out that his friend is like falling off the stairs, and then he falls and gets hurt. He takes a picture of his dad's new car, and then they end up like getting into a wreck. Of course, nobody dies at this point because people in the present of Goosebumps, in the present time, because they're ghosts and stuff, so, you know, people in the past have died. But at the present moment, people really don't die in Goosebumps. But bad things happen, like car accidents and falling off the stairs at, you know, kind of a high level. You know, breaking bones, stuff like that. And so, you know, this group of friends has to deal with this evil camera and find ways to, you know, get rid of it and stop the things that it predicted from happening. There's a point where he takes a picture of one of his friends and they are not in the picture, and they think maybe he just missed, he's not like a good photographer, and the next day they have disappeared. So yeah, it's basically about a spooky camera. It was a fun book. I enjoyed it years ago when I read it, and I enjoyed it upon reread. I will eventually get to reviewing the sequel, because the sequel is good too, and the episodes are pretty well done, well adapted. Some Goosebumps are hit and miss with the show, but I think this one was really well done. I would say I kind of like both the book and the episode equally. And yeah, it's just a spooky, fun time. So next one is Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. And interestingly, okay, whatever. Enough, this one, much like the original Night of the Living Dummy, has, or was not, adapted to an episode. But the second one was. And I had totally forgotten, because like I said, it was sometime in between when I watched the show and went back to went back to reading the books, that I had forgotten that the episode was based upon the second book, because when you watch it, you really wouldn't know. They're both done in a way where you could read them separately. Like, I think, if I remember right, in the second one, they kind of like, at least in the book, they kind of like recap in a way some things that might have happened, or that hint in a way that there was a story before that one. But like I said, it's not really written in a way where you couldn't read or watch the second one without having to have read the first book. Anyways, so this is about a boy named Gabe who is on vacation or staying with his uncle. I can't remember what his uncle does. I think he's an archaeologist or something like that, or some type of historian. I can never remember these details in Goosebumps because, you know, other things are going on, spooky things are going on, right? But anyways, he is with his uncle and his cousin. Her name, I think, is Sari. And these children are both of Egyptian descent. And so, you know, it's kind of like not just visiting a country for fun, but it is kind of like, you know, visiting their family's homeland and stuff like that. So there's kind of like a cultural connection for them, which I thought was interesting. And, you know, as these type of books go, they go to a different place, and what is supposed to be a fun time kind of turns into, you know, a fight for survival. And this is one of those books where the titular kind of thing does come into play, like the mummy and stuff, but that really isn't the villain per se. And I always find those kind of stories interesting and fun to read, because, you know, obviously the true monsters, some of the darkest things, are human beings. But still, I like that we took a trip to somewhere outside of America, to, you know, a different culture. I wish we would have gotten more in there about Egyptian culture than some of just like the basic things that most people know about. But it is a short book. It's Goosebumps. The main focus is, you know, kind of the bad guy adventure part. I would say this one is a little bit more adventurous than spooky. Kind of like mystery, bad guy adventure with a little, you know, horror bit in there. It's not my absolute favorite one. Like I said, I wish we would have got more like cultural context, but it was still a fun read. I think it should have been its own episode, because I think that could have been well done. I think a lot of Goosebumps needed episodes that didn't get one. But anyways, yep, that is The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. So next is Let's Get Invisible. So while this one wasn't like my favorite in like writing style, I don't know, it just, the writing and everything just didn't capture me as much as some of the other ones. I do appreciate its eeriness, its atmosphericness, and it's like a very cold feeling, both book and episode. So this is about, I think his name is Max, if I remember right, and he has a birthday, and him and his friends go up to his attic, I believe it was the attic, and they find this mirror. And it kind of has like a light, and when they pull the chain for the light and everything, they discover that the mirror makes them invisible. And they keep playing with it, and it becomes harder and harder to become uninvisible. And they discover that there's like basically another world on the other side of the mirror. And they have, I guess, doppelgangers in kind of a way. Like their reflection is like a copy of them on the other side. And of course, as these types of stories go, the reflections kind of have sinister motives, you know, they want on the other side. And so, like I said, not my absolute favorite, but this book has a very, like, despite the fact that it's like not like winter or anything out, because of how it's shown in the episode and how things are like described in the book and the cover and everything, it just has this very cold feeling to it. Like, the mirror world is like a very cold environment. It just reads very cold. Reads very, like I said, eerie and just kind of depressing in a way. Like I said, it's worth the read, not my favorite. Decent installment. So, Night of the Living Dummy. This one, much like the first Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, was not ever made into an episode, which is kind of odd, considering that Slappy is almost like the face of Goosebumps now. He's even got a series called Slappy World, which, again, might be very blasphemous in the world of Goosebumps to say, but I kind of prefer Slappy in some of the later books, like Bride of the Living Dummy, or his appearance in Slappy World. He doesn't appear in, like, as a character in every one. Sometimes he's kind of just like a slight narrator for some things, but I like him better. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I remember liking the book for the most part, but it might come as a surprise to people who have never read it, but Slappy is not a main character in this. He doesn't, spoilers, he doesn't really appear until the end. Like, he is there, but he's not talking and, like, really creating the chaos that he is in, you know, the other books, or at least not where people know about it. So basically, this is about two sisters. I don't remember their names, but they're always kind of like in competition with each other. But yeah, so two sisters, if I remember right, they're always kind of like in competition with each other in some kind of way. They end up getting these dummies, these ventriloquist dummies. One is Mr. Wood, I think his name was. He's kind of like the main antagonist of this thing. And then, of course, there's Slappy. And so, yeah, they end up acquiring the dummies somehow. I don't honestly remember. And, you know, the dummies are evil. And they do bad things. Like I said, I don't remember a whole lot. It didn't really hold my attention too much, and especially since, like, Slappy, like I said, doesn't really appear as a character himself until later on in the book. I'm probably gonna have to reread this one. Honestly, I think out of the, like, original Slappy trilogy, I think the best one is the second one, because the third one's kind of ridiculous in both the episode and the book. This one, I mean, I didn't hate it. There wasn't enough for me to really remember. Like, I didn't love it like some other Goosebumps books where I remember a lot of details because it was, like, either really eerie or, like, a really unique concept or just fun. I would say give it a read because, you know, it is the original Night of the Living Dummy. But just don't give your hopes up. Or maybe you'll like it more than I did. Who knows? Alright. The Girl Who Cried Monster, which is obviously, you know, a play on The Boy Who Cried Wolf. This one was fun. This one is, like, kind of gross in a way, and I hate gross, but it's not, like, overly gross. It's more like guy eats bugs kind of gross. Not, like, extreme body horror gross. That very few Goosebumps I've gotten into. But anyways, so it's just creepy enough for me to be entertained but not grossed out. Again, the cover is kind of a little bit more cartoonish, a little bit more fun. Kind of a monster thing going on here. Like I said, this one is a little bit more bright, a little bit more mysterious, kind of anxiety inducing in some ways. So, what is this one about? This is about a girl, and I don't remember her name now. Oh, I think her name is Lucy, if I remember right. Her name is Lucy. Lucy is obsessed with monsters. Like, she's in this reading program, and they're trying to push her to, like, read classic books, and she kind of, like, finds them boring. She wants to read about monsters and stuff like that. And one day, I think she like forgets her book bag or something in the library, because she has this program at the library. And so she's there after hours, and she sees the librarian, I think his name is Mr. Mortman, like eating bugs, right? And he like transforms, like his face is like monster-like, right? And so she ends up like telling her parents, her friends. Nobody believes her because she's always making up monster stories. Like, she tells monster stories to scare like her little brother and stuff. Like, she overdoes it with the monster thing, right? Like, to the point where people get annoyed with her. So of course people don't believe her. And just like this part in the book, I can't remember if that's that same part or if she ends up going back, I think, to like try to prove he's a monster or something like that. Things like that happen in the book. But anyways, there's the part where she's trying to escape from the library, and like, I love going to the library because like I love books and everything, and just the thought of going somewhere that I enjoy and kind of like having to run for my life is kind of anxiety inducing. Very anxiety inducing for a Goosebumps book. So it is entertaining. It's a fast read, and I would argue that while technically in a way almost all Goosebumps has kind of a reveal, a twist or whatever, this is the very first like big twist in Goosebumps, and I really enjoyed the ending. I don't think you would have seen that coming. In fact, I think for the original Goosebumps, there's a lot of endings that you don't see coming. And it's also going to be coming up in one of these other videos pretty soon for another story. But there are other books in the original series that have sort of a similar type of ending or twist. But this was the first one, and I think this is the best one out of those. Welcome to Camp Nightmare. I love that cover. It is just like so spooky and creepy. And this is one of my favorites of the book, and the episode is like really well done. I thought the acting in it was well done, and the characters were really portrayed really good. So this is, I guess, the second book with a big reveal at the end. And this is basically the first of the camping books. There's like a lot of books in Goosebumps. There's a handful of them that take place at camp. And while not all made like my top 10 list, if I had to pick like a category between like, you know, mummies or monster blood or slapping that I like, kind of like a theme thing that I like out of Goosebumps, like the camp ones would be on the top, because even some of the ones that people really didn't care for, I thought were still entertaining. For some reason, the camp ones are really well done, and this is one of the best ones. This one is about a boy, if I remember correctly, his name is Billy. He goes to a camp, I think it's technically called Camp Night Moon, but obviously spooky things happen, so the title is Welcome to Camp Nightmare. You know, at first things are going okay. The counselors seem a little strange at times, but, you know, I think kind of brushes it off as it's just their personality. There is a forbidden bunk that they are not allowed to go to, and they're very strict about that, but other than that, like I said, nothing too out of the ordinary, but then of course things out of the ordinary do happen. People started getting hurt. Campers started disappearing, and when Billy asks about them, they pretend like they've never existed, even if they're spending one night doing s'mores, cooking up s'mores, singing camp songs with that person right there. The next day, if they're gone, the counselors are pretending that they never existed. That, it's in his imagination, or he's making things up, that kind of thing. And of course, Billy is trying to figure out what's going on. And he's scared because people are disappearing. The adults in charge who were supposed to protect him are acting strange and kind of dangerous. And of course there is a big reveal at the end. And a lot of people did not like this reveal, it seems. And I really enjoyed it. Because again, much like Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, things aren't as what they appear, and what you thought was evil or bad is not really what you should be worrying about. And, I believe the twist. I believe that's how things would go. If you've read it, you know. But anyways, yeah, I love the camp ones, and Welcome to Camp Nightmare is probably one of my absolute favorites. It's just really well done, and I thought the twist was unique, but believable. Then finally, The Ghost Next Door. So, when I reread this one, it didn't become like a favorite like some of the other ones did, and maybe that's because kind of the twist in this one I've seen repeated, not just in Goosebumps, but in movies. And again, not to give away spoilers, but if you know, you know. But I want to go ahead and say, at least for that popular trend, in the late 90s, 99 going on into the 2000s, we've had big movies, some independent low-budget movies that have had this kind of concept. I believe this book was published in 93, so I want to say in that era, Goosebumps did it first. So this is about a girl who, I can't remember her name, but anyways, she wakes up from a bad dream and things just seem kind of off, and there's this new family moving in next door, and things just don't seem quite right. Things just kind of seem off when she's around them. The boy seems okay, and she thinks the mom is like ignoring her or whatever, but I think it turns out the mom is deaf. But she kind of feels like some things are a cover-up for other things, and obviously we kind of learn what things really are. Like I said, this one is kind of more of like a sad one in a way. I think that it dragged on a little too much after the reveal, and I think that's what kind of made it not my favorite. Like, if the reveal would have happened and it would have ended a little bit more quickly after that, but I feel like some things were just added on to kind of like extend it. And yeah, I think it should have just ended at that point, or that kind of other thing should have been closer to that reveal. But like I said, I think some parts were unnecessary. But anyways, it's not a bad read. Like I said, it's a little bit more of an emotional one. It is well written, just not an absolute favorite. So that is the first set of Goosebumps that I'm going to be talking about. I've done 1 through 10 now. Probably tonight, like the full video of all these will be on YouTube, which is under the same name. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye bye.